So far in extreme ownership, I would say that I could probably find at least 6 or 7 examples per chapter and apply them both to my clinical and personal life. But I chose 2 to 3 for this assignment. So for Chapter 1, Extreme Ownership, I really liked the portion of the book that focused on the fact that we blame poor performance on the things that are out of our control. So I know we had this conversation on Collaborate last week, but we talked about what are the reasons that we don't implement the things that we're learning in the DAT. And a lot of us, including myself, said, there's a bunch of external things that are happening. Support, time, but really if you take the time to self-reflect, it's really just laziness and the contentment of the easy way. Also in this chapter, being okay with taking the blame for failure. So for a personal example, I lost a close relationship with a friend from my undergraduate career when I enrolled in this program. Now we still have a relationship and a friendship, but it's not the same as what it was before. And we both kind of let the friendship go, and we were always too busy, and he's actually an athletic trainer as well, so it's really easy to say, well, we'll catch up later, or I'm actually have this homework assignment, or I have this game, and so we couldn't have a 5-minute phone conversation. But I took this chapter as you have to lead in your relationships as well. Chapter 2, no bad teams, only bad leaders. One point that I really liked was from the boat scene that you need to develop a culture of leadership that begins with the leader and kind of trickles down to the junior members of the team. So we have a responsibility to take the things that we've learned in the DAT and spread them to my colleagues next year. I don't want to keep all of this knowledge and techniques and approaches to a clinical skill or a difficult conversation and just keep them in this little box and never share them. And continuing to learn and implement new things upon graduation. Also, it's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate. This one, for a personal example, I, mostly last year, but last semester a little bit too, was hearing a lot of anti-LGBT, anti-Black comments from both athletes and staff, and for a while there I would just leave and not say anything, but I feel confident that it's my responsibility to say something and to be a voice and not tolerate it. So I feel like I've embodied that, and I've started to, even if it's a staff member or someone with a bit more authority than me, I have a conversation with them, or I just straight up call them out on the inappropriate language. Another example for this chapter was leaders should never be satisfied. So this comes back to this fear of being average that we've talked about a bit. Upon graduation, we can't just be satisfied on where we're at as clinicians and leaders, but we need to continue to grow, which I know, my classmates, I'm sure, will embody. For the believe section, chapter 3, understanding the why so you can believe in the mission, I think was the key component that hit home to me. We had a staff meeting last Tuesday, and we were asked to listen to essentially a TED Talk on the why of an organization. Because you don't buy a product because of what it does, you buy a product because of why it does it. And essentially we were asked to come up with, why do you get out of bed in the morning? Because we believe in the mission of really, really great patient care and continuous quality improvement. Also, don't believe, the component of if you don't believe, you won't take the risk. I believed in the DAT. I wouldn't have taken the risk to enroll if I didn't believe in the DAT. And I believe in the DAT in the future, and I think that's going to be a huge component to advocate for our colleagues that are in the next cohort, and the cohort after that, and the cohort after that, to move the profession forward. So when I asked myself the why in my personal life, like truly asked what gets me fired up, what gets me excited, that's when I started to advocate and get involved in LGBT legislation, lobbying, protesting, and obviously now more than ever that's so important. And if I never asked myself why, I probably never would have gotten fired up and truly passionate about advocacy. I would have just kind of stayed passive and behind the scenes like I was maybe in undergrad. Chapter 4, checking the ego. I think the number one in clinical practice would be the ability to accept constructive criticism. So clinically, I have had students, which is awesome, that tell me that they don't like when I do something. So they don't like when I correct their hand placement on a special test or a manual muscle test in front of the athlete, which is totally valid. So maybe a couple years ago, when maybe I was at South, I would have been a little taken back by a student giving me that much feedback, again, in front of an athlete. But now I ask for feedback. I want them to specifically call me out on things that are not working. I ask my students, when we do our evaluations at the end of the semester, what could I do differently? What didn't you like? Because in order to grow, I need to know those things. Also admitting to patients that I don't know the answer and being okay with that. Before this program, I don't think I would have been okay telling the patient that straight up I don't know, but I promise I will find you the answer, or I will direct you to somebody that can find you the answer. But now, checking my ego that I don't have to have all of the right answers in the immediate evaluation of the patient, I think has helped me come a long way. And then finally, chapter 5, cover and move. Working together in support of each other. So recently, I think the GAs have been supporting one another more now than I've felt like in a long time. We all want to exceed, and we all want to be the best clinicians we can be, and we've really truly embodied that now, and I just think we work better as a unit. And then in my personal life, working together in support of each other, the immediate thought for me was the Women's March. The majority of my friends are unapologetically feminist and have been pretty upset lately with the election. So, I've been reaching out to them, and they've been reaching out to me to just simply say, hey, I'm here if you want to talk, or march, or vent, or yell. And that to me really embodies cover and move.